the sort of games or TV shows, that coming into doing things like motion capture kind of offsets you a little bit? Did you find it a bit jarring switching between the two kind of media? Or did you think, oh hey, tennis ball on a stick, I can do this?
I had the pleasure for about a good, I'd say, 5 years of time to literally go shoot a show on one and then go back home and work on Uncharted. So I feel like I felt that like shift a lot. And I think the biggest thing I would just always forget is the T-poses in between. Honestly, just because on set you're they're like quiet on the set, rolling, everything. You have makeup, you have a routine for leading right up until action. You have hair and makeup coming over to you, you're talking with the director, camera's getting set up, they're setting things, sound is rolling, you're on your marks, and then action. And then with mocap, it's a totally just different beginning. You're running through the motions, and then you're talking about the scene, and then you're laughing, and then you T-pose. Or now it's, exactly. And then after the scene is done, you have to do that again. So a lot of times I would finish the scene and just off of routine, walk back and, oh right, I have to go back. It's this, yeah. So it's very much.
And all that is what they're doing is it marks the beginning of the end, because what the computers see are just like a skeleton, a digital skeleton, that the markers are basically lining. So it's like an in point and out point for the people who are running to know when the scene begins and ends. Because the digital thing has no sound, it's just they're watching that. So when they see that you start that way, then you get into the scene, then when it ends, they know, oh, they just cut. That's what they know. That's all.
But honestly,
it's just a marking.
It was it wasn't, that was only like the little technical hiccup, but it wasn't jarring, it was exciting. I can't tell you, at the beginning, Uncharted wasn't known at all. We were just starting it out. And as we got to work on it for 10 years, the art form grew, and all of a sudden, people went from not wanting to do video game voice stuff to everybody wants to be in a video game. So it just became really exciting to be able to do both.
Cool. So is there anything in particular then that you guys remember? Any one thing in particular you remember from being in Uncharted? You think sort of, embarrassing would help, give the guys a laugh, or anything memorable for you guys that you actually really hold on to from going through 10 years together?
There's so much. I will tell you that I remember the first game, what we did in the first game, we didn't capture the audio at the same time, and it was all done, you would do the scenes, say everything, and then you'd go back into a booth and you'd watch the scene in the motion capture suits, and you would voice yourself. It's called ADR. You dub your lines as you just say it again in the audio booth. And I remember the first time I saw myself. I had not been working out. I put on a few sympathy pounds. My wife had our second baby, and my motion capture suit happened to be brown. Yeah, you get the picture? 10 pounds of shite in a 5-pound bag. And I went, oh my God, I look like Mr. Hanky the Christmas poo. I need to work out. And nobody said, no, you look great. Nobody. And I said, I'm never wearing the brown suit again. And they did, they retired the brown suit. So that was my, so that's why I try to stay as fit as possible over the last 10 years, because I remember seeing myself, and you are just about as vulnerable as you can be. It's like, you can tell what religion you are, and in certain sense, yeah, well, all right. Whatever. So anyway, it was, that was my, there's my contribution. That was a very eye-opening moment when you wanted to close them as tight as possible.
But I think what I love about what I get to do is, especially in an ensemble or just stuff with great casts, is literally sitting and getting to listen and learn from people. So I just love to I love the days on motion capture, but they're long, and there's something crazy about being in that gray room all day long. Some of my favorites were driving into Technicolor and going to the booths and sitting in between Nolan and Richard and watching what had been mocked up and created, and then getting to chase picture, which is literally everybody sitting there together watching the picture and getting to improv or throw little things in. That to me was like Christmas, because I didn't know what was coming next.
The thing they should know is that chasing pictures, like the designers at Naughty Dog would literally run through a level as Drake and Elena and Sully, and they would purposely, do things like in Uncharted 2. They purposely jumped into the pool, and they'd run up and they'd look at certain things, and we were just encouraged to chase the picture, watch, and just say whatever came to our mind. That's what she's talking about. So, and that's where some of the best, they had lines written for us, but yeah, some of the best just ad-libs.
It's just like when you're sitting next to people that have been doing what you're just starting out to do for like years. I just was sitting there listening, going, people don't get this opportunity right now. This is amazing. I'm working with Amy Hennig and Gordon Hunt and Nolan North. And this is amazing. Like, what is happening right now? Maybe like, Emily, say your line. Oh, right, okay, I'll talk now. But it really was great. Those were my favorite memories.
Let's keep it short.
I'll actually say this. I mean, I can talk about different moments on set. I talked about, if you were here yesterday, I talked about one, but there's a moment that stands out to me about we've seen Uncharted get the awards, we've seen it do millions of copies sold, we've seen the impact that it's had on people, but I've never really seen the level that it had on the people that were a part of making it until you and I were in Rome. And we're up there for a press event, and there's Bruce Straley, who was the game designer on 4 and has been with the project since the very beginning. And he says, Nolan, why don't you come in? This is the last hurrah for Nathan Drake. Why don't you say something? And Nolan gets up there and you see him. He loves to hold court. He goes, yeah, it's wow. I can't believe it's over. And knowing him so well, I was like, oh, this is a thing. Like, the reality of this is kind of setting in. And I'd never really seen the effect that Uncharted had on my friend Nolan until that moment, and realizing I got to be a part of something, a small part of something that was really, really big and impacted and changed people's lives. The Last of Us changed my life. This game changed Nolan's life, it changed Emily's life, it changed the course of Naughty Dog, it changed the way that games are made, it changed us as gamers. It had such a resounding impact, and I don't think I really had fully recognized that until I saw Nathan Drake go, and the weight of that was on one man for one moment. It was a tremendous burden and also a tremendous responsibility for one man to carry. And it was just really cool to see that. So that's one of the greatest moments for me for Uncharted.
So it kind of resonates with you, the whole process. Yeah, come on, guys. So it kind of resonates for all three of you, I guess, at certain points. So I think at this point, I imagine you're very simple talking to me. So I'm going to open up to these guys, if that's all right with you. So if you've got questions, Annie's coming around with the microphone. Keep them clean. Yes?
What's been the most random action or sound you've had to record? The most random action or sound you've had to record?
Well, like I said, in the chasing picture, there's a lot of me just going, no. Crap. those were sessions. I got a check for that. And it just sounded, and if you took it out of context, somebody listening, they go, is that man constipated? What? Is he in trouble? So we had, there's YouTube stuff up. Remember that there's a YouTube thing of us, and then we had to give the efforts of pushing a crate, and it cuts to me going, because you do the face, and Richard McGowan and then she's over there going, and we just do these. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. I mean, you would say you make some of the strangest noises. Like, just think about lifting something heavy, record yourself, and then listen back and say, have a brain. What is this going? What is that? It's crazy.
I had to record myself. They said Elena, falls into water, and we want to get the drowning thing, and that's fine. But doing that while I was pregnant was hard and also scary because you have a baby inside of you, and you're trying to convince your body that you're drowning. So I remember after doing that, literally saying, "It's okay, baby, it's okay," because I knew that your body really feels what you're going through. So if you're holding your breath and struggling to breathe and struggling for life, you know that you feel a little bad doing that.
And they got me to go in and hold her head underwater.
She's Memphis. She
good?
eats this. I was going to bring up the drowning. You guys are both really, really good at that.
All right, next question.
Just want to say welcome to Northern Ireland.
Thank you.
All three of you have done a vast amount for voice acting in video games. But do you ever get disappointed where you've done a fantastic performance, but the game itself hasn't worked out? And I think it's mostly of Stephen Heck in Alpha Protocol, which was
He just called me out.
It was absolutely brilliant role.
Oh,
Really
thank you.
memorable, and I think people who played the game loved it, but it didn't go on and get a. It should have deserved sequel.
I don't, thank you about that. I do, I hear a lot of people love Stephen Heck, and the sad thing is I've never played the game, but I heard about the game. But I, as an actor, and I think you guys agree, I mean, we're only responsible to do our thing. And one of the most frustrating things kind of goes back to what you were asking earlier that I have on camera. It's like, I can't stand to watch myself on an on-camera, because when I do, I'll see all the different choices I could have made, and then what they chose. With voiceover, what's interesting is normally an animated show, game, you record the performance first, and they animate to that performance. So it's always interesting to see what that final product is, how it matches up. The TMNT movie, when I did Raphael in 2007, right? And go to a theater and see it all in 3D animation, that was really cool. So I don't really feel like I'm a part of the games, a part of the animation, and it's not one little cog in the wheel isn't gonna fix everything. So I just I feel like I'm responsible to do, you're responsible for your own, you're responsible for your performance and how they incorporate that, what the rest of the game does. Like we said earlier, it's a collaborative process. That's why Naughty Dog has been so amazing, because every single person at that place is a genius at their job. And that's what makes the ultimate package come together. It's never one person's thing that's going to save it. Now, one good performance might save a crappy movie, but one good performance in a game is not going to make you want to put it in the console again and play it. There's so much more to it than it's everything. It's such an immersive experience that a lot of parts have to come together to make it right.
Hi. Well, we've all heard the stories about your best moments, most embarrassing moments from for example, The Last of Us, the alternate ending, genius. But what I want to know is, in any game, series, or animated movie that you've done so far, what's been the most heartbreaking moments where you actually step down and go shit?
Sarah scene wrecked me. Like I learned something about myself that day, and I learned how good of an actor I was, not because my performance was good, but I learned that I still had so far to go, because I've looked at people who have these incredibly emotional performances and really impactful performances, and I understood that there was a level of skill that they had that I did not have, because when I left set that day, I was a wreck, and I drove home, I walked into my house, I walked straight into my bed, and I didn't surface until the next day. And it was because I did not have the skill set to really learn how to navigate a scene of that emotional level and that depth. Because what I did is I started going and jumped over the fence that your mind puts up around trauma and started tap dancing on all these memories to try to put me in a place that was relative to the situation that we were in the scene. And that takes skill, man. And I learned that day that I had a long way to go as an actor. But that was single-handedly the second worst day of my entire life. And that was the worst day ever for me as an actor. But it was also the best day for me as an actor, because you never know how strong you can be until you find out how weak you are. And I needed to know that about myself, and I'm really grateful that I had Neil Druckmann there to push me to a point where I broke, both as an actor and as a person. Like, I feel like I grew as a person. But that's where we're at with games. That's where I think we should be in all of storytelling, is pushing the people who are a part of that to a level where they break, and the truth and the honesty comes out of that place. And I think we all get better for it. That's my experience.
I think some of the stuff that I did as Audrey was really, really difficult in Haven. I just felt for her in a way I never felt for other characters. And then, to be honest with you, Uncharted 4 was really hard for me, because I wasn't as much at the beginning of the games. It was kind of like Uncharted 4, I was always like, I don't know how long I'm gonna be here, and I don't know what part of the story I'm gonna play. And I know we're wrapping up a family that I love so much. So it felt like a really slow Band-Aid being pulled off. I'm like, one hand I want it to be quick, on the other hand I don't. Because I just didn't know. I felt like every time I was coming in, I was like, is this it? Is this, I don't know, is this it? Well, we might need you for I need to know, is this the, like, okay, yes, this is the end, you know? So that was really hard for me. It was hard to say. It's always hard when you know the end is coming and you're having to actually say goodbye to a character.